Free Decatur. Let's give it up just for some citizens who just said that it's time.
Yes.
Every now and then, citizens just have to say it's time. And then when we do that, then the elected officials will get behind us. So thankfully, Hate Free Decatur just said it's time.
So Hate Free Decatur is truly just a group of us citizens here in Decatur and Dekalb County, just like you, saying that we're not going to allow this monument to define who we are. We are not going to allow this monument to stand in the footprint of our county courthouse. And we are not going to allow it to stand in front of our public square where our kids, our families, our loved ones play, that center of public life for Decatur, that we are not going to allow that shadow to stand over us anymore. So let me tell you about this monument. This monument went up in 1908. Do you all know what happened in 1908?
Race riots.
Well, in 1906, we had a race riot in the streets of Atlanta where thousands of white men and boys filled the streets of Atlanta and brutally murdered black people just for the rumor of things happening with black men. In 1908, Georgia voters restricted black voting rights for the next 60 years, and we are still having repercussions of that today. And in 1916, just a stone's throw from here over at Stone Mountain, the Ku Klux Klan was reborn. So this monument, they try to say it's about heritage, they try to say it's about celebrating soldiers. We know better. We know that that is a hate-filled monument, that it celebrates bigotry, that it celebrates white supremacy, and that we are not going to let that be part of our public square anymore.
And it's in this context of trying to control the black community, trying to stop the black vote. So it's not, I would argue, it's not actually a Confederate monument. It's a monument to white supremacy. And the location of it, right in front of the courthouse, is no accident. It was supposed to be there as a warning to any black man trying to go into the courthouse, to the Register of Voters, to say, no, you are not going to be allowed to vote. It stood in front of the courthouse as that warning.
This monument was not paid for by Decatur. It was not paid for by Dekalb County. It was paid for by donations from white supremacists. And the white supremacists were basically led by the United Daughters of the Confederacy. And Robin is completely right that that memorial was put there to prevent voting, but it was also put there, and the United Daughters of the Confederacy make this point very clearly. They put it there to educate the children of the community. They wanted it there for all the children to see, to erase slavery from the narrative of the Confederacy and make it about states' rights. It is absolutely there for our children.
Hate Free Decatur! Hate Free Decatur! Take it down! Take it down! Take it down! Take it down!
At the very least, we're asking you all to go on record and just say, we oppose white supremacy, we oppose what that Confederate monument stands for, what it means to the citizens of our city, and particularly to the descendants of people of African descent who were victims of a crime against humanity. One of the greatest crimes against humanity known to mankind, American chattel slavery.
Folks, Madam Mayor, I have a resolution that I'd like to give to my fellow commissioners. Therefore, be it resolved, and is hereby resolved by the City Commission of the City of Decatur, Georgia, that the Georgia, number one, that the Georgia General Assembly is urged to amend OCGA Section 50-3-1 to allow local governing bodies to make decisions regarding local monuments located within their jurisdiction. And two, the City Commission of the City of Decatur does support action by the Dekalb County Board of Commissioners when authorized to remove the Confederate memorial to an alternative location within DeKalb County where it can be placed in context with the larger history of the times in which it was built. This 18th day of September 2017. I submit this for your approval.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And the chair votes aye.
But today I come here to, again, request that our Dekalb County Board of Commissioners go ahead and do the resolution to have the monument that sits on the Decatur Square removed and be put in a museum. We gained some allies here in Dekalb. I think they're all there. Yes, so we want to make sure we're here to support the removal of it. So whatever you need to get it done, we're here to make sure that it is done. We no longer want to pay any of our taxes to help maintain something that stands for hate. And again, our theme says no more hate in Dekalb. So we want to make sure that our commissioners do the right thing. As Dr. Martin Luther King said, the time is right to do what's right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Just want to reiterate, the state law allows them to remove it now for its own protection. As we've seen, the monument has been defaced at least 3 times at this point. So 50-3-1B2 allows for its removal, for its protection and preservation. And we are asking that it be removed and placed in a historical context, which would be in a museum. So today we hope that the county commission will listen to the voices of the people that have assembled here, the 300 that have marched, and the thousands of Decatur and DeKalb County citizens who have spoken that it's time to take down hate.
Can anyone talk about what's next?
For one of the things that we made clear at the city commissioners meeting is that we are organizing a group of pro bono attorneys that will defend against any litigation. So we want the taxpayers of DeKalb County and the city of Decatur to know that by taking up this fight, by our commissioners having the courage to move forward and do the right thing, do something that is progressive, that sets a tone in the state of Georgia, that we will have their back. That it does not have to be a us against them, that we can do this together, that we're on the side of right, we're on the right side of history, and they should join us on the right side of history, and that we're giving them every opportunity to say, yes, we are standing against white supremacy. The city of Decatur commissioners have done that unanimously. Now we're calling for each and every one of these county commissioners to come out publicly and say they condemn white supremacy and they are in support of the removal of this monument. They need to say that unequivocally to us, to their constituents, to everyone that they represent, so that we can send a message. If it cannot happen in DeKalb County, it will not be able to happen in the state of Georgia.
Right.
Are there any legal barriers to removing it?
We don't.
From the county's perspective?
From our position, we believe that they are allowed to move it to preserve it, and that at this point it should be removed for its own preservation outside of this public space. And we're prepared again. The city of Decatur has the highest concentration of attorneys in the state of Georgia, and they have been volunteering to support this effort. We're talking litigators of the top class, and this is no dismissal of the DeKalb County legal team, because they are extraordinary. We're just saying you don't even have to foot the bill for this. The people are prepared to stand up and defend what we believe our right is if the Attorney General's office or the state of Georgia seeks to impose their will and say that we do not have the right to self-determination in this county and city to remove this monument to white supremacy.
In my resolution, we're asking the county attorney to research and find out those answers for us, so that when we come back, I'm a lawyer, and I just want to make sure that whatever we do as a county is on legal standing.
So factually, we want to know who owns the land that the statute is on and who owns the statute itself. Once we have those facts clarified, then we will apply the state law. And I think basically what she is saying, if all that fails or that doesn't get the result we want, then we may want to go to the General Assembly to see if we can get the law changed.
I got you.
But when thinking about our monument that's on our square, you know,
there's a lot of discussion about the way in which we don't want to, that we shouldn't revise history. But I can tell you as a professional historian, that's what we do. We are constantly revising history. We are constantly rewriting history because we have new information and because we have new perspectives that we bring on the past, because we have new ways of thinking about our present that force us to think about the past in different ways. So one of the biggest reasons we need to look at the history of Decatur is because we don't take for granted now that we want the perspective of all the members of our community and not just a certain part of it.
What we're suggesting here is that if we want, as Professor Crispino said earlier and as Dr. Morris said earlier, what we're talking about here is the usage of primary sources to recreate narratives. The problem is that history has often been treated as if one should have a good memory, to memorize particular things, rote memory, to not really question the narrative. And that's the furthest thing from how you recreate these narratives. This is investigative work. This is bloodhound work. And if we would teach our children, K through 12, to really begin to recreate narratives based on primary sources, to dig into archives, to question the things that are around them, we'll have a very different kind of understanding of history.
So the reason that the second reason that I begin there is to make the point that when we think about this particular type of struggle to have these monuments and statues removed, particularly from the perspective of people of African descent in Dekalb County, the city of Decatur, and beyond, throughout the African diaspora, it is a part of a totality of a struggle. Indeed, what King is saying is that in addition to the struggle against the physical brutality of enslavement, in addition to the struggle against the disenfranchisement, the political disenfranchisement that one experiences, in addition to the struggle against other forms of oppression, one of the key struggles that exist is the struggles over symbolism and iconography. So part of what's happening here is a struggle over memory. It's a struggle over understanding history. It's a struggle over understanding the impact that both of those have on a particular group of people. So when we see this generation engaging in a struggle, we see that there's a part of a totality of an effort.
We're now at a point in time in this country where historically the federal government has had to protect marginalized people. But we've now hit a time of political vitriol to the point where we need to look at local politics and maybe even the flipping of states' rights to protect folk. And so we've entered uncharted waters in the United States. And one of the things, if this is truly a nation of people, we must force those closest to us to get in line with what our ideals are. The problem as to what I see oftentimes on the national level is we have a lot of politicians that are scared. We need a group that's not.
And let's be clear on one thing. We're in 2017. We don't need to be having an old debate. It's clear that history has spoken. It's clear that these monuments need to be removed. And any politician that does not have the wherewithal to say that and to openly denounce white supremacy needs to be reevaluated by the voters. The voters have spoken. The people of DeKalb County have spoken. Take it down and put it in a museum. The law is clear. We will support you.
That's right.
Who's square?
I swear!
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 Until you get the monument removed, we're not going to go away because we care about this.